So some of you may or may not know, when I was up at Chautauqua about 3 weeks ago, my very last day, I was coming out of the gates, headed to a little town, and I got hit hard behind me from an emergency vehicle. And so when I arrived here, Sunday and Monday, I went to Gabriel Nelson and I said, I've got this something going on right at the edge of my head, and maybe I popped back and hit the seam, in the headrest. And so Mark worked with me a little bit, and Gabriel Nelson worked with me a little bit. So I asked him if he would be willing to do a meditation process this morning that'll bring in some sound, and also that you can experience with me what our healing practitioners might do for you if you were to come and ask them to work with you. And I figured, since we're doing kind of world religions and she's got the whole world in her hands, then you have an opportunity to witness what something might be alternative to the care you might just get through your doctor's office. And keep in mind, Myrtle and Charles were not against the medical field, just they had given up their hands with Myrtle when she went inside and did her own personal healings. And so I'm going to invite Gabriel Nelson to come to the stage, and he will work with me in a process, and he will bring you the meditation this morning. Gabriel Nelson.
Energy and life. With free will, perhaps, that we know of. Octopus are pretty smart. So vibrational therapy is actually energy medicine, and a little bit of the overview of the history of energy medicine. It's all about drawing forth your own faith in your own healing. I don't call myself a healer. I am a vessel or a channel. And I use tools that help detect where there's trapped energy. Originally, the tuning forks were used. Tracey, I'm going to ask you to take a nice, just deep breath in and exhale through your mouth. Good. And please feel free to go through this whole process collectively, because I also do distant Reiki along with distant tuning fork therapy. We do group sound meditations where the collective and the individual person receive benefits, and even actually group tuning fork therapy as well. When the forks hit trapped energy in our electrobiomagnetic field, there's many words for it, our aura, our chi, our personal space. When it hits trapped energy, the sound will change. It'll become a little chattery. And that just lets the practitioner know that there's some trapped energy there. And then the power of intuition, which is a muscle that we use and develop, kicks in. And the way that I've learned to frame it, for example, with Reverend Tracey, is that anything that she is willing to release and wants to release gets communicated through me, because I've asked her permission before the session. Do I have permission to merge with your energy?
Yes.
Thank you. So once that happens, things even on an unconscious level that may be going on in Tracey's mind or a subconscious level, I get pictures and images. And it took me a while to share them in trust, but now I do, and there's usually always a hit with them, meaning the person receiving is able to make a connection. And it's usually, oh my God, type connection. So what's going on with you in your body today? Or is there anything you'd like to release or call in?
Just some anxiety.
Some anxiety, okay. So I'm going to tell on Reverend Tracey a little bit. As I go forward with the tuning forks. When I came over that, later that morning, when I came here for the tuning fork session, I said, how long do you have? She goes, oh, about 5 minutes. And I was like, I didn't say anything, but it didn't fail. The awareness didn't pass that, that's interesting. How those of us who are called to serve allow so little time for our own healing. And, you probably can't hear it out there, but there's this high squealing sound here. Now, I'm going to stop for a moment. Tracey, go ahead and breathe. And send love, breathe love to this area, this part of your energy field. Yeah, you don't even need to look, but just go ahead and breathe and send some love. I'm about 3 to 5 feet away from her. So when I hear the chattering sound this far away, that represents and maps to inception and birth. So this lets me know that there was something going on at an early age. Now it's on her left side. If we're on her left side, if we're on her right side, it would be something to do with either the divine masculine. When I say divine masculine, the qualities, maybe out of balance, maybe too aggressive or too analytical. And it can also be relationships with men, unresolved issues. Same thing on the left side is the divine feminine. So this just lets us know. Now, it really it's not important to know why. Where the healing comes in is when I'm going to ask, again, Reverend Tracey to go ahead and just breathe in and send love to your little girl, to your little child. And it clears right back up again. And so we continue. Now with anxiety, you can see here there's a difference between the unweighted, there's no barrels on the end, and the weighted. The weighted provide deep vibration onto the body. So when they're used on the body, it really induces profound relaxation. Go ahead and just breathe that in. And for those of you who also hearts may be racing a little this morning, maybe a little anxiety, you came in with some worry or a fear, just go ahead and breathe into your heart space and connect with it. Just be with it. And just visualize a dial. It can be an old-fashioned egg timer. It could be a remote control where the volume goes up. But just see that or think about having one of those. And go ahead and set a number to your anxiety or your fear or worry on a scale of 1 to 10. Just checking in with yourself. And as you continue breathing, see that remote or egg timer go down. And just breathe into the heart, relax the body. When the body is tense, it does not release and do its healing work. And just gently see that number going down. And as it does, you're feeling a sense of comfort. As we confirm and acknowledge in our minds the angel wings that surround us, their love, our guardian angels, the Christ consciousness. Breathing in the healing powers of the Holy Spirit. For we know all things are possible. And from this place of peace and calm, the water flows in and soothes you. Just listen to the water. See or think about water and yourself immersed in water. Free, whole, healed, and complete. Reiki does no harm. It goes exactly where it needs to go, which keeps the practitioner out of treating. For we don't treat. We see people whole, healed, and complete rather than treating.
Good. So many times I know practitioners will wash their hands afterwards, shake their energy, wash their hands. Again, water being a healing element. So if you were able to travel a little bit with Gabriel Nelson just to go through the process, I didn't want it to be any place of fear, but just to know that we have other resources than running to the doctor and taking a pill. So not that everything's whole and complete at 100%. However, I open that energy field, being vulnerable to share it with all of you today, and just know that we have a number of people in our congregation who do this kind of work. And if there's someone who calls to you, just know that you are never alone with only one option. Our fields are immense. We have many, many options. So if one lesson is true of water, it is ebb and flow. Go with the way it goes. So we're going to kind of keep this short because we've already had a number of demonstrations this morning. But I want to share something with you that I find kind of delicious about the Fillmores. We know that their guidance to us is that each and every one of us has a truth within us. And the truth that is common to all is a truth that is a foundational in all religion, all sects. Now, we know that Charles was not crazy about creating dogma. He did not want to say that this is the only way to whatever your imagination says heaven is. He didn't say this is the only path to God. As a matter of fact, he studied many paths to God, and I want to share a few things with you that had him, in his own truism, say this is what is true for me. Unity's emphasis on an inner light and spiritual interpretation of the sacraments are often thought and can be found in Quakerism. Unity, like Christian Science, puts major emphasis on spiritual steps to healing, not unlike what you saw demonstrated this morning. Theosophy speculated about reincarnation and held it as a hypothesis worthy of consideration. We know that Myrtle and Charles were deeply intrigued by the idea of reincarnation. They did not force it on their students of truth. Like Rosicrucianism, it contemplated the ideas of cosmic reality and Spirit's all-embracing principles. Traditional Christianity, it's thought of in terms of the art of deep and sincere worship. Often when you come to a Sunday morning, we don't call it a worship service per se, we call it a celebration service. That we are celebrating our connection, we are celebrating the divinity within each one of us as we connect with one another, and we celebrate the life principles and teachings that you hear on this stage. Awareness of the astral and psychic manifestations harked back to spiritualism. Now, the Fillmores eventually turned a bit away from that But if you look at what Charles talks about, he is often inspired in his dreams. So my suggestion, my invitation to you, watch your dreams. When something is heavy on your heart, something that you're working through a process, some decision is before you, same anxiety is rising up, allow your time with that deep breath and go into your dream state. Try to pay attention. If you have a little notebook, write down beside you when you're semi-conscious what is going on. Often we wake up and we forget everything that happened before. Now, when I was at the Parliament of World Religions in Chicago, it was the 130th year that the original one was in Chicago, 130 years prior to me attending this one. So that was part of the specialness of me going to this one, and that Charles and Myrtle were introduced to Hinduism. Never before had they heard these ideas manifested as they are through Hinduism, which you know is the most ancient of all. I'm not going to call it a religion because I don't believe in a solitary God, if that's a definition, but it's a way of life, a way of respecting the way of life. And so in Hinduism, the emphasis became on meditation, and it fit really well with the teachings of unity. Home blessings, blessings of the male, prayers for protection, these all come from the Jewish and Roman Catholic sources. When we talked earlier today about the water, and I thought, well, people resist this. Well, they say, we're not Catholic. What are you doing, Tracey? And I thought, no, but if you have a picture of someone that you love that is in your living room or on your bedside table, to remember the ways that were done before us, remember our ancestors, remember the people before us, it's often like holding the rosary beads. We don't necessarily practice that, but to have this memory of an icon that was influential in your life, to me, is no different than the sacred water ceremony. To honor Mother Earth, to honor the natural resources that we have. I'm not asking you to get down and worship or make altars. I'm just asking you to be respectful of everything that we share life with. And often I know with the Lady of Lourdes, the healings that took place as people come to her church, the icon that was discovered in Tinos, deeply buried under the earth. And when they discovered it, it was Mother Mary, and with her, the Archangel Gabriel, who is giving her the message that she's going to carry the Christ child. And they take that icon, that plaque, and they put it beside the church. And as I talked to another lady this morning, people crawl to this church. They release those things that hold them back. There are a number of sacred sites in the world, and all of these have a water ceremony, a purification ritual, something that we can bring to our home, whether it's the rain from the clouds around us, that we can hold what is true and perfect in our heart space, not that we are giving up, but we are only bringing more to the table when we are honoring the sacred grounds, the waters, the air that we breathe. I think I mentioned earlier that I heard through the fires, people are being asked to set out water for the animals that are rushing from the fires, trying to find a place of safety. So in some metaphysical, metaphorical sense, can we not offer that to our own brothers and sisters? And I think when the Fillmores were creating what they wanted unity to be, they wanted us to emulate who we call the way shower. And that for us is Jesus the Christ. Gabriel Nelson mentioned earlier the Christ consciousness. That is that holiness within each one of us that beholds in each other person that same attitude. So we start in gratitude. We look each other with a loving heart, even those that we're not feeling loving towards. When we are stressed, when we are anxious, how do we let go of that so that we might come back to the truth of who we are? And for the Fillmores, they looked at many different religions, as I just talked about, many different isms, to see what was going to be true that they would bring forward. And for them, it showed up in the Christ light. And that same Christ light exists inside each one of us, whether we are practitioners of Buddha, Hinduism, shamanism, paganism. So you get to decide what is true for you, but that undercurrent is the same thing that we celebrated as more than 200 nations came together at the Parliament of World Religions, as more than 100 different celebrations of how they honor something greater than themselves came together. So today I just wanted to share a little bit of that with each and every one present and hope that for you, you got something out of that was rich. Won't be every Sunday. It's a lot of work. But you get to go inside and ask those deeper questions. Find that true connection for you of who your God-centeredness is. And we support you in the journey. And thank you for your time today. Amen.